When my oldest son looked me in the eye across his marble kitchen island and said, "Dad, why don't you live in the house I bought you?" my youngest son quietly pushed his chair back and walked out the back door. By the time I realized he wasn't just stepping out for air, my truck keys were gone and his bedroom closet was empty. What would you have done in my place? If you have a few minutes, read this to the end and tell me if I went too far. I still wake up wondering whether I did the right thing, and I need an outside opinion. My name is Thomas Reed. I'm 68 years old, a widower, a retired contractor, and a grandfather to one stubborn little girl named Emma, who thinks I hung the moon. I have two sons, Mark, my oldest, who people politely call successful, and Ryan, my youngest, who people less politely call lost. I spent 40 years building houses for other families. This story is about the one house that almost destroyed mine, and what I did to make sure it never would again. It started the year after my wife, Linda, died. She was the one with the sense. I was the one with the hammer. She handled the books, the insurance, the appointments, the reminders, the gentle nudges when my temper got ahead of my brain. When cancer took her, it left me with a 4-bedroom colonial that felt like a museum and a heart that felt like a cracked foundation. The boys tried to help in their own ways. Mark, at 38, already had a real estate company with his name on the sign, Reed Premier Homes. He wore tailored suits, drove a black Escalade, and talked about synergy and scaling as if they were people he knew personally. He was the golden child, the one teachers and neighbors always pointed to and said, "That boy is going places." Ryan, at 24, was still figuring life out. He worked part-time at an auto shop, part-time delivering appliances, and spent his off hours drawing cars in a sketchbook and tinkering with engines. He'd been close to his mother in a way that made my chest ache to watch after she was gone. They had shared jokes I didn't understand, songs I didn't know, looks across the dinner table that said more than words. After the funeral, Mark came to the house with a folder tucked under his arm. "Dad, sit down," he said, like he was delivering a business proposal, not talking to his father, who'd just lost his wife of 42 years. We sat at the dining table Linda and I had refinished ourselves. Her chair was still pulled out slightly, the way she always left it when she went to grab something from the kitchen. Mark spread the papers out like a magician laying down cards. "I've been looking at your finances," he said. "Property taxes, maintenance, utilities. This house is bleeding you dry." "I'm fine," I said automatically. "The house is paid off." "Dad, you're living on a fixed income and nostalgia," he countered. "The roof needs replacing, the HVAC is original, the wiring's outdated. You can't keep pouring money into this place." I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. He wasn't entirely wrong. Every creak in the floor, every flicker in the lights, every draft from the windows whispered Linda's name. The house hurt in ways that had nothing to do with money. "So what are you suggesting?" I asked. Mark smiled the way he did when he'd closed a good deal. "I've been working on a new development in Brookstone Estates. Gated community, quiet streets, 5 minutes from Emma's school. There's a model home that isn't spoken for yet. 4 bedrooms, single story so you're not climbing stairs. Open floor plan. I want to buy it for you." The words hung between us. "Buy it? For me?" I repeated slowly. "As a gift," he said. "You sell this old place, take the cash, invest it. I'll cover the new mortgage in my name. You won't have to worry about a thing. You'll be 5 minutes away from us and Emma. You can see her every day." It sounded generous. On paper it probably was. But something about the way he said "in my name" stuck in my craw. "What about Ryan?" I asked. "This is his home too." Ryan was in the garage that day, tuning the truck I'd been meaning to sell. I could hear the faint metallic rhythm of his tools through the kitchen door. "Ryan can figure himself out," Mark said, dismissive. "He's a grown man. He can rent somewhere with a friend. This is about you, Dad." He was the successful one, the responsible one, the son who showed me spreadsheets and said things like long-term strategy and asset protection, while I nodded along like I understood everything. Against my better judgment, I signed the papers. Selling the family home felt like burying Linda all over again, but Mark handled everything quickly. Too quickly, in hindsight. Within a month, my old house was gone. The memories reduced to line items on a closing statement. The Brookstone house stood waiting on a manicured street with freshly laid sod and identical mailboxes guarding identical driveways. "We'll move you in next week," Mark said, handing me a key in a little velvet pouch, like it was an award instead of a decision I'd never be able to undo. "You'll love it there." The first time I walked through the front door of the new house, I felt nothing. No echo of Linda's laughter. No scuff marks from the boys racing down the hallway. No nicks in the banister from moving furniture up and down the stairs. Just clean lines, perfect finishes, and the faint chemical smell of fresh paint trying to pass as new beginnings. I stayed one night. I lay in the master bedroom, listening to the silence pressing in from all sides, and understood, deep in my bones, that this was not my home. It was a product, a showpiece, a prop in whatever story Mark was telling about himself. The next morning I drove back to the small 2-bedroom rental I'd taken temporarily near my old neighborhood. The landlord had been surprised when I asked to keep it longer. I was surprised at how relieved I felt walking back into its cramped kitchen and outdated bathroom. A week later, Mark called. "Dad, why aren't you at the house?" he asked. "I am at the house," I answered. "My house." "The one I bought you," he corrected, a tightness in his voice. "In Brookstone. I just took a client there and your truck wasn't in the driveway. The lights were off. It looked abandoned." "That's because I'm not living there," I said. "I appreciate your help, son, but that place isn't for me." Silence. Then a low, dangerous chuckle. "You're kidding." "I'm not," I said. "You told me it was in your name. You can use it for whatever you want. I'm fine where I am." "You're telling me I just bought a $600,000 house so you could keep rotting in some old rental?" His tone shifted from concern to something sharper. "Do you have any idea how that makes me look?" "How it makes you look?" I repeated. "To Emma? To Madison's parents? To my investors?" he snapped. "I tell everyone I bought my father a beautiful home to take care of him in his old age, and you're sitting in a 2-bedroom dump like some stubborn teenager." I could have told him that pride cuts both ways, that I didn't want to be on display like a showroom sofa, that I wanted a home, not a monument to his ego. Instead, I said, "I'm comfortable here, Mark. That's all." He hung up without saying goodbye. From that day on, something shifted between us. Invitations to dinner became rarer. Emma's visits slowed. When I did see them, Mark spoke about Brookstone like it was a minor inconvenience he was tolerating, a temporary embarrassment until he could spin it into something profitable. "Maybe we'll stage it as a model home," he said once. "At least then it's not just sitting there making me look like a fool." He said look like a fool, as if that was the worst fate a man could suffer. Months passed. Ryan stayed with me off and on, paying what he could toward rent, fixing anything that broke before I even noticed it. We watched old movies on my beat-up couch, ate cheap pizza, and talked about nothing in particular. When he spoke about Mark, it was with the wary respect a younger brother has for an older one who's always had the upper hand. "Mark means well," Ryan would say. "He just lives in a different world." Everything might have stayed that way. Me in my rental, Mark in his big house, Ryan in the middle, if not for one Sunday dinner. Madison called and insisted I come. "Dad, Emma's doing a project for school about family," she said. "She wants you in it. Please come. And bring Ryan. It'll be nice. We haven't all been together in months." Guilt is a powerful thing. So is the thought of disappointing a 10-year-old girl who still drew crooked hearts on construction paper for her grandpa. Ryan drove. Mark's neighborhood gate opened at the touch of a button, like magic. The houses inside all looked like the Brookstone place. Big, white, perfect. Mark's house had an oversized American flag hanging from a flawless stone facade, as if patriotism could be measured in square footage. Inside, everything was curated. Framed photos of Mark shaking hands with important-looking men, Madison's Instagram-worthy floral arrangements, Emma's artwork tastefully confined to a corkboard in the hallway, as if childhood could be contained and controlled. Dinner started polite. Emma showed us her project, a poster board with photos of the Reed family tree. My picture was there, next to Linda's. Ryan's photo was from his high school graduation, awkward and charming. Mark's was his corporate headshot, all confidence and straight teeth. "Grandpa, I told my teacher you build houses," Emma said proudly. "Built," Mark corrected. "He built houses, past tense." Madison shot him a look but said nothing. We ate roasted chicken and asparagus that looked like it had been arranged with tweezers. Conversation drifted from Emma's school to Madison's yoga studio to Mark's latest big development. Ryan stayed mostly quiet, pushing food around his plate. Then Madison's parents arrived late, trailing perfume and opinions. "Thomas," her father boomed, clapping me on the back. "Good to see you. Mark tells us he bought you a lovely place in Brookstone. Very generous of him." "It was generous," I said carefully. "Though I'm not actually—" "He refuses to live there," Mark cut in, his voice tight, eyes already a little glassy from the wine. "Can you believe that?" Madison's mom pursed her lips at me the way some people look at stray dogs. "Oh? Why ever not? It's such a nice neighborhood." "I'm just more comfortable in my old area," I said. "Closer to my usual doctor, the grocery." "The truth," Mark said loudly, setting his fork down with a clatter, "is that my father doesn't appreciate what's being done for him." The room went quiet. "Mark," Madison whispered. "Not now." "No, let's talk about it," he insisted, turning fully toward me. "Dad, everyone sitting at this table knows I bought you that house. I pay the mortgage. I cover the HOA fees. I keep it maintained. And you'd rather sit in some shack where the neighbors park on their lawns and the nearest decent restaurant is a McDonald's." Ryan's eyes flicked from him to me, jaw tightening. "Mark, this isn't the time," I said softly. "When is the time?" he demanded. "When my reputation is shredded because my own father won't accept my help? When people start asking why the house I bought my aging father is sitting empty like some failed charity project?" He leaned forward, eyes hard. "Why don't you live in the house I bought you, Dad?" There it was. The question, dropped in the middle of the table like a live grenade. I felt everyone's eyes on me. Madison's nervous, Emma's confused, her grandparents judgmental. Ryan looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. "Because it isn't my house," I wanted to say. "Because you didn't buy it for me, you bought it for yourself. Because every time you call it the house I bought you, what you mean is the leash I wrapped around your neck." Instead, I said, "Because it doesn't feel like home." Mark laughed, not kindly. "Home? You want to talk about feelings now? I gave you a gift worth more than anything you ever owned in your life, and you're worried about feelings?" "Mark," Ryan said quietly, "back off." Mark rounded on him. "Of course you'd side with him. You're living off him too." Ryan's chair scraped the floor as he stood. "I pay rent," Ryan said, voice shaking. "I help him. Rent," Mark scoffed. $200 a month to crash in a spare room and eat his food while you figure things out. Real impressive, Ryan. Emma looked like she was about to cry. Madison reached for her hand, but the damage was done. I pushed my chair back slowly. "I think I should go," I said. "Thank you for dinner." "Running away again," Mark said louder. "That's what you're good at. Afraid someone might look too closely at how little you've actually done with your life." Ryan's jaw clenched. "Say one more thing about Dad," he said low, "and I swear." "Ryan," I cut in, "let it go." He looked at me, eyes bright with something close to rage. Then he grabbed his jacket and walked toward the sliding glass door instead of the front. It slid open with a soft whisper, letting in a gust of cool night air. I thought he was just stepping outside to cool off. I didn't know that by the time I reached home that night, his room would be empty and my truck would be gone. If I'd followed him out that door, if I'd caught his sleeve and asked what was really going on, maybe everything would have played out differently. But I didn't. And that mistake gave my oldest son enough time to turn a gift into a weapon I never saw coming. On the drive home, the silence in the passenger seat felt heavier than usual. I reached for the radio, then pulled my hand back. I could still hear Mark's words. "Why don't you live in the house I bought you?" Houses I understood. Words like his, I didn't. When I pulled into the driveway of my rental, I saw it immediately. The porch light I always left on when Ryan went out was off. The curtains in his bedroom were open, no faint glow behind them. A strange stillness hung around the small house. "Ryan?" I called as I stepped inside. No answer. His bedroom door stood half open. The bed was made. The old quilt Linda had sewn folded neatly at the foot. The closet door yawned open onto empty hangers. The drawer where he kept his sketchbooks was pulled all the way out, bare. On the pillow, an envelope with my name. My stomach dropped. I sat on the edge of his bed and opened it with fingers that suddenly didn't feel like mine. "Dad, I'm sorry to do this, but I can't stay here and watch Mark treat you like that." Tonight I realized something. He doesn't see you as a person anymore. You're a prop in his success story. He's planning something with that Brookstone house. I shouldn't have seen what I saw, but I did. There were papers on his desk, copies of your driver's license, your social security card, your signature on things I know you didn't sign. Madison walked in before I could see everything, but it was enough. You always told me to trust my gut, and my gut says he's not just trying to help. Check the bottom drawer of your old toolbox in the garage. I took something I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to see and copied it. You'll understand when you do. I took your truck. I know that's crappy, but I needed to get out fast. I'll bring it back when I can. Please don't call Mark until you've looked in the toolbox. Don't go to that Brookstone house alone. I love you. Ryan. My hands shook as I folded the letter back, my heart thudding so hard it almost drowned out the sound of my own breathing. My old red toolbox sat under the workbench, exactly where it had gathered dust since I stopped working. I knelt, joints protesting, and slid open the bottom drawer. On top of a tangle of rusted pliers and a tape measure, there was another envelope. Inside, a stack of photocopies. The first page made my vision blur. It was a loan application, 7 figures, with the Brookstone address listed under collateral property. Borrower, Mark Reed. Co-signer, Thomas Reed. My signature was at the bottom, except I'd never signed that document. The next page was a copy of my driver's license. The next, my social security card. Then a durable power of attorney form already filled out, my name in the correct field, Mark's in the space labeled attorney in fact. My signature again, neat, steady, forged. My throat went dry. The last document stopped my heart cold. It was a life insurance policy taken out 6 months earlier. Insured, Thomas Reed. Beneficiary, Mark Reed. Policy amount, $2 million. In the margin, in a neat handwritten note I recognized as Mark's, were the words, "If he moves into Brookstone, we can bundle this with the property insurance." Easier to explain. I dropped the papers on the workbench as if they were hot. The house he bought for me. The insistence that I move there. The anger when I didn't. The old man jokes about my health. The subtle pressure about seeing a Dr. Mark's guy recommended, a clinic near Brookstone. It crashed over me in a wave that made my knees buckle. He wasn't just trying to control me. He'd been planning for what would happen after I died. And not just in the abstract way a son worries about an aging father. He was planning to profit from it. I sank onto the old shop stool, the familiar metal groan steadying me in a way nothing else could. The Brookstone house, the empty monument he'd built for his narrative, the life insurance policy, the forged signature, the loan with my name holding up one of his business deals. Ryan had seen the edges of it and run. Not because he was a coward, but because he knew Mark would turn on him the second he realized someone had gone through his papers. I stayed in that garage a long time, the night swallowing the little house whole, the cicadas outside screaming loud enough to cover the sound of my own thoughts. By midnight, I knew two things. First, my youngest son had risked everything to warn me. Second, my oldest son had already decided what my life and my death were worth in dollars and cents. What I didn't know yet was how far I was willing to go to make sure he never got to cash in. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I spread the papers out on the kitchen table, the same way Mark had spread his proposals out after Linda's funeral. But this time, I was the one studying them like blueprints. Fraud, forgery, identity theft, insurance taken out without my knowledge, a loan hanging off the side of my name like a parasite. I'd built entire subdivisions from nothing but raw land and a promise. I understood structures, what held, what cracked, what could be brought down with one well-placed cut. In the morning, I called the only lawyer I trusted, an old client named Jim Harper. I'd built his home 20 years ago. He'd insisted on paying in full, in cash, and then somewhere along the line had become one of those men whose name made other lawyers straighten up in court. "Thomas," he said when he picked up. "Been a long time." "Jim," I said, "I need help, and I need you not to talk me out of what I'm about to ask." 2 hours later, we sat in his downtown office, the papers spread out again between us. He read every line carefully. His face went from neutral to grim to something like fury. "Your son did this?" he asked finally. "My oldest," I said. "Mark." "And your youngest?" "Ryan found the paperwork," I said. "Now he's gone. Took my truck. Left me a note telling me to be careful." Jim leaned back, folding his hands over his stomach. "All right," he said. "First things first. We notify the bank about the forgery. That loan goes into immediate review. Mark's going to feel that hit fast." "And the insurance?" I asked. "We call the agent," Jim said. "You tell them you never authorized this policy, never signed the application. They'll open an investigation. Insurance companies don't like being tricked into paying out on questionable policies. That's a problem for your son, not for you." My chest tightened. "Jim," I said quietly, "am I crazy, or does this look like he might have been counting on me not living too long in that house?" Jim's eyes met mine. He didn't answer right away. "I've seen uglier things in probate court than most people believe happen outside of movies," he said finally. "What I can tell you is that he built a nice structure here, a house in his name, a big loan with your forged signature as the safety net, and a life insurance policy that would make all his problems go away if something unfortunate happened." He slid the power of attorney form toward me. "This one bothers me the most," he said. "If he got you to sign this for real, even once, he could start moving things around in your name without needing to forge anything. Bank accounts, retirement, the works." "He tried already," I said slowly, remembering. "After Linda died, he mentioned something about simplifying things with a power of attorney. I told him no. I guess he decided to skip the asking part." "What do you want to do?" Jim asked. It was a simple question with an answer that tasted complicated. I thought of Mark at the head of that perfect table, wine in hand, calling me ungrateful. I thought of Emma's little face as her father accused me of rotting away in a rental. I thought of Ryan's neat handwriting in the letter, the way he'd risked everything rather than sit quietly and watch. "I want to make sure he can't hurt anyone with this," I said. "Not me, not Ryan, not Emma. And I want him to feel, really feel, what it's like when the ground under his feet isn't as solid as he thinks." Jim nodded slowly. "We can do that," he said. The next week was a blur of calls and signatures and meetings. The bank froze the seven-figure loan pending investigation. They took the forgery seriously, especially when Jim mentioned that we were willing to involve law enforcement if necessary. Suddenly, the friendly branch manager who'd shaken Mark's hand over golf looked very interested in distancing the bank from anything that smelled like fraud. The insurance company opened a formal inquiry. They suspended the policy, sent letters, called, asked for clarification. Somewhere in a beige cubicle, a claims investigator probably circled my file in red ink. Jim drafted a new will for me, one that left nothing, no house, no account, no insurance policy, to Mark. Everything went into a trust with Ryan and Emma as beneficiaries. He also recommended something that made my stomach flip: a temporary restraining order preventing Mark from accessing any of my financial records. "He may not know exactly what you've done yet," Jim said, "but once the bank and the insurance company contact him, he's going to come running. This gives us a legal buffer." We filed it. Then we waited. Mark's call came 3 days later. "What did you do?" he demanded the second I picked up. "Hello to you too, son," I said. "The bank just froze my bridge loan," he snapped. "They're talking about irregularities in documentation and possible forged signatures. And my insurance agent called saying you denied authorizing the policy. Do you have any idea what you've done to my business?" "I had no idea I'd done anything to your business," I said calmly. "I was just making sure no one had taken my identity and used it without my consent." "You're overreacting," he said. "It was just paperwork. Standard stuff. You must have signed something and forgotten. You're not exactly—" "Careful?" I finished. "Or competent enough to remember?" He hesitated. That half-second of silence told me everything. "I'm coming over," he said. "We're sorting this out face to face." "No," I said. "We're not." "Excuse me?" he said, incredulous. "You heard me," I said. "There's a restraining order in place now, Mark. You can talk to my lawyer if you want details. His name is Jim Harper." "You put a restraining order on your own son?" he exploded. "Do you have any idea how insane that sounds?" "I do," I said. "I also know how insane it feels to find out your son forged your name on a seven-figure loan and took out a life insurance policy on you without telling you." "That's how business works," Mark said, voice rising. "People use each other's credit. You raised me to take opportunities. I was trying to build something that would benefit all of us." "By betting my life and my name without asking?" I said. "Some benefit." He switched tactics. "Dad," he said, voice softening, "come on. You're blowing this out of proportion. You know I'd never let anything happen to you. You really think I'd—" "What? Bump you off for an insurance payout? Is that what you're accusing me of?" "I think you stopped seeing me as a person somewhere along the line," I said, "and started seeing me as a convenient asset. That's bad enough." He exhaled sharply. "You're going to ruin me," he said. "Do you understand? That loan was tied to 3 projects. I've already broken ground. People will sue me. I'll lose everything." "I won't ruin you," I said quietly. "Your choices will." He hung up. Jim called an hour later. "He's panicking," Jim said. "The bank wants a meeting. They've invited you as well, since it's your name on the paperwork." "Do I go?" I asked. "Yes," he said, "but not alone. I'll be there. And so will a detective from the Financial Crimes Unit. The bank invited him. That tells me they're taking this very seriously." 2 days later, I sat in a glass-walled conference room at the bank downtown, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. Mark walked in wearing his best suit, but there was sweat at his collar and a tightness in his jaw I'd never seen before. He stopped short when he saw the detective's badge. "Is this necessary?" Mark asked. "It's standard when there are allegations of forgery," the bank manager said smoothly. "We just want to understand how these signatures ended up on our documents." Mark launched into a performance worthy of one of those courtroom dramas Linda used to watch. He talked about stress, grief, helping his aging father with paperwork, the possibility that I'd forgotten signing something. He emphasized his concern for my well-being. The detective listened politely. Then he slid the loan application across the table toward me. "Mr. Reed," he said, "is this your signature?" I looked at it. At my name, written in the neat, steady script Mark had mimicked from birthday checks and school forms over the years. "No," I said, "it is not." Something in Mark's face cracked. The bank manager frowned. The detective scribbled something in his notebook. "Thank you," he said. The meeting ended without handshakes. As we stepped into the parking lot, Mark grabbed my arm. "You're going to let them drag me through the mud?" he hissed. "Your own son?" "I didn't drag you anywhere," I said. "You walked here on your own." His expression hardened. "You think Ryan's going to take care of you when this is over?" he sneered. "You think that little coward, wherever he ran off to, is going to pay your bills, handle your doctors, sit by your hospital bed? You just torched the only son willing to do the hard stuff." I met his eyes. "I'd rather die alone in a rental," I said, "than live one day in a house you built on lies." He flinched like I'd hit him. "Dad," he started. I turned away. That could have been the end of it. The legal process grinding along, Mark's business crumbling, me sitting alone in my little rental, wondering where Ryan had gone. But life rarely gives you clean endings. A week later, Madison called. Her voice shook. "Thomas," she said, "I don't know who else to call. Mark, he's losing his mind. The bank froze everything. Clients are withdrawing deals. There are rumors about the police. He's drinking. He's different." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "I never wanted you or Emma caught in the middle." She hesitated. "He keeps talking about the Brookstone house," she said. "He says if he can close one more deal, he can leverage it, refinance, something. He wants to move you in, make it look legitimate, then renegotiate the loans. He's fixated." Cold crept up my spine. "Where is he now?" I asked. "At the Brookstone house," she said. "He went there this morning. Said he needed to fix the optics. I'm scared he's going to do something stupid." My reflection stared back at me from the darkened TV screen, an old man with too much anger in his eyes and not enough time to waste it. "Lock your doors," I said. "Stay home with Emma. I'll take care of this." I called Jim. "Is it illegal to sell a house I don't live in?" I asked. "Not if your name is on the deed," he said. "It's not," I said. "Not officially. Mark put it in his name." "Then no," he said slowly. "You can't sell it." "Why?" "Because I want him to understand what it feels like to lose something he thinks he owns," I said. "The way he almost made me lose my own life." Jim was quiet for a long moment. "There's another way," he said slowly. "Remember the transfer documents you signed when you sold your old house? The ones you didn't read because you trusted Mark?" "Yes," I said warily. "I pulled them from the county records," Jim said. "I was looking for patterns in his paperwork. There's a clause that says a portion of the proceeds from that sale were used as an investment into Reed Premier Homes, entitling you to a percentage of equity in his company and in any property purchased with that investment." "So?" I said. "So," Jim continued, "that Brookstone house was purchased with those same funds, according to the bank's file. It's technically part of the investment structure tied to your equity. In plain English, you're not just his father in that deal. You're his business partner." The word tasted bitter. "What can I do with that?" I asked. "You can call a special meeting of partners," Jim said. "You can demand a vote on the disposition of assets. And you can walk into that Brookstone house not as his dad begging for honesty, but as a man who owns part of what he thinks is entirely his." "That sounds like legalese," I said. "It is," Jim admitted. "But Mark respects legalese. It's the only language he listens to." So that's how I ended up back at the house my son bought for me. Not as a grateful father, but as a man coming to reclaim something he hadn't realized he owned. The Brookstone house was lit up like a stage when I pulled up. My old truck sat out front, Ryan's truck. My heart slammed against my ribs. I walked up the stone path, every step measured. Through the big front window I saw Mark pacing the empty living room, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing wildly. Papers littered the granite island in the kitchen. A half-empty bottle of whiskey sat nearby. I raised my hand and rang the doorbell. He opened the door with a scowl that vanished when he saw me. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I own part of this house," I said. "I'll go where I please." He laughed, harsh and humorless. "You don't own anything here," he said. "You gave that up when you refused to move in. This is my problem now. My asset. My liability." "You made it my problem when you used my name without asking," I said. "And you made it my asset when you tied it to the money from the only home your mother and I ever owned." We stared at each other across the threshold. "Where's Ryan?" I asked. Something flickered in his eyes. "Gone," he said. "Took off like a coward. Just like you." "His truck is outside," I said. "And he took it with my permission this time." Mark's jaw clenched. "You've been talking to him?" he demanded. "I've been reading what he left me," I said. His eyes darted toward the kitchen, then back to me. "This is still fixable," he said. "If you move in, just for a few months, I can renegotiate the loan, reassure the investors. The insurance thing will blow over. We can say it was a misunderstanding." "And if I say no?" I asked. "Then you'll lose everything when I go under," he said. "Your equity, your retirement, your sheer pride. You think the bank's going to protect your name when my projects default? They'll drag you in too. You'll be the old fool who tanked his son's business because he couldn't handle a little paperwork." I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. "No," I said. "I'll be the man who finally stopped forgiving his son for confusing love with leverage." I walked past him into the kitchen. The papers on the island weren't contracts. They were maps and calendars, scribbled with numbers and notes. In the middle, a thick envelope. I opened it. Inside were more photocopies. My documents again, Ryan's handwriting noting dates, arrows pointing to signatures. On top, a note. "Dad, if you're reading this, it means you came. I'm downstairs with someone who wants to talk to you. Don't let Mark spin this. Ryan." My chest tightened. "Where is he?" I asked. Mark's shoulders sagged. "In the basement," he said, "with a cop and someone from the bank. He came here this morning and called them. Told them everything. He thought he could save you, like some kind of hero." He spat the word. "You should thank him," I said. "For what?" Mark demanded. "For giving me a chance to say this to your face," I said, "before the system does." I walked past him, down the hallway to the basement door. It creaked the way new hinges do when they haven't been oiled yet. The stairs smelled like fresh lumber and concrete. At the bottom, under bright recessed lights, Ryan sat at a folding table with the detective from the bank meeting and another man in a suit. He looked tired, older than he had any right to at 24. My truck keys sat in front of him, along with another pile of documents. He stood when he saw me. "Dad," he said. For a moment, all I could do was pull him into a hug. The last time I'd hugged him that hard was the day we buried Linda. "I'm sorry I left," he whispered. "I'm not," I said. "You saved my life." The detective cleared his throat. "Mr. Reed," he said, looking between us, "your younger son has been very cooperative. He brought us more evidence of your older son's activities. We were just discussing next steps." Mark clattered down the stairs behind us. "This is ridiculous," he said. "This is a family misunderstanding, not a crime." Ryan turned to him, something hard and steady in his eyes. "You forged his name," Ryan said. "You took out insurance policies without telling him. You lied. That's not a misunderstanding. That's who you chose to be." "Enough!" the detective said sharply. "This isn't a trial. Not yet." He handed me a form. "Do you intend to press charges?" he asked. The room went quiet. Mark stared at me like I was holding a loaded gun. In a way, I was. Ryan watched me too, but his eyes held something else. Fear, yes, but also hope. Pressing charges meant opening a door that couldn't be closed easily. Police reports, court hearings, public records. Emma, reading someday about what her father had done to her grandfather. But not pressing charges meant something else. Telling Mark that what he'd done was survivable, forgivable, part of the cost of doing business. I thought of Linda. She'd defended Mark long after he'd stopped deserving automatic defense. "He's just ambitious," she'd say. "He'll grow out of it." She'd never lived to see how that ambition twisted. I picked up the pen. "Yes," I said. "I intend to press charges." Mark's face drained of color. "You'd do that to your own son?" he whispered. "I'm not doing this to you," I said. "I'm doing it for everyone you've already hurt, and everyone you would have hurt next, including me." I signed. It wasn't enough for me to know he'd been wrong. He needed the world he respected, banks, courts, contracts, to tell him too. The detective nodded. "Then we'll move forward," he said. "Mr. Mark Reed, you're under arrest for forgery, fraud, and identity theft." The rest of that scene is a blur. The Miranda rights, the handcuffs, Mark's voice rising, then breaking, Ryan staring at the floor, the echo of the front door as officers let him out. The revenge didn't end there. It never does, not really. The bank sued Mark's company. Investors pulled out. Projects stalled and then died. Mark pled guilty to reduced charges to avoid a trial that would have aired every dirty detail. He got time, less than I thought he deserved, more than he ever believed he'd see. The Brookstone house went up for sale to cover debts. I didn't bid on it. I had no desire to live in a mausoleum built out of lies and granite. Instead, I took Jim's advice and used what was left of my equity in Mark's company to do something else. I bought a small, sturdy house with a detached garage on the edge of town. 3 bedrooms, nothing fancy, but the kind of place where you can track mud in without feeling like you're ruining a magazine spread. Ryan moved into one of the rooms while he got back on his feet. The third we turned into a space for Emma when she visited. Madison divorced Mark quietly. She brought Emma over one Sunday with a suitcase and a shy look. "Is it okay if she stays a few days?" she asked. "It's okay if she stays as long as she needs," I said. Ryan rebuilt my old truck engine in the new garage, this time with Emma handing him tools and asking more questions than he could answer. I went back to small projects, fixing neighbors' fences, helping an elderly woman down the street repair her porch. Nothing big, nothing with contracts and lawyers and banks, just wood, nails, honest work. I never moved into the house Mark bought me. In a way, no one ever did. It sat, empty and staged, for months after the trial. People walked through it on Sunday afternoons, commenting on the finishes, the open floor plan, the wainscoting. Eventually someone else bought it, their names on the deed, their furniture in the rooms. Sometimes, when I drive past Brookstone to take Emma to a friend's house, she points and asks, "Is that the house Dad bought you?" "It was supposed to be," I say. "And why don't you live there?" she always asks. "Because houses built on lies never become homes, I think." Out loud, I say, "Because I found a place that feels more like me." She seems satisfied with that. As for Mark, he writes from time to time. The first letter was nothing but anger, blaming me for everything. The second had a crack of self-awareness. The third contained something like an apology. "I thought taking care of you meant controlling you," he wrote. "I saw you as a line item to manage. I forgot you were a man who built his own life long before I built anything." I haven't written back yet. I might. Revenge cools faster than people think. The hurt underneath it sticks around longer. What I do know is this. When my oldest son asked, "Why don't you live in the house I bought you?" my youngest ran away to protect me from a plan I didn't see coming. I answered that question with silence at the time. Later, I answered it with lawyers, banks, and handcuffs. I destroyed my son's business, his reputation, and for a while, his freedom. In doing so, I saved my own life and probably his daughter's future. Now I sit in a smaller, quieter house that I actually chose, with my youngest son rebuilding engines in the garage and my granddaughter's laughter echoing down the hallway. The house isn't big. The counters aren't granite. The mailbox leans a little to the left, but it's mine. So tell me honestly, was I right to go as far as I did, or did I cross a line when I chose justice over mercy for my own son?
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales like this, hit subscribe.